When you discover fairy tales are lies, the pain cuts deeper for having believed them in the first place. Serenia Silverclaw had long stopped believing in happy endings. Her womb, declared barren by the village healer, had become her identity, her curse, her cage. Each full moon that passed without the promise of cubs only cemented what everyone whispered. She was broken, defective, a bloodline's dead end. In a world where a woman's worth was measured by the strength of her future litter, Serenia's emptiness marked her as less than worthless. The mate who had once whispered devotions against her skin now avoided her gaze in the village square. Her father's shoulders curved with the weight of her failure. Even the wind seemed to carry their whispers. Broken, broken, broken. She had resigned herself to shadows, to exist at the edges of pack life, healing others' wounds while her own festered beneath careful smiles. What use was fighting a truth etched into her very being? But then he came, Alpha King Draven of the Northern Territories, whose mere presence bent the air around him like heat over flame. His golden eyes cut through pretense and pride, seeing something in her that no one else had bothered to look for. When he pointed to her, among all the fertile, perfect women of the village, something ancient stirred in Serenia's chest. Not hope. She knew better than to hope. But perhaps purpose. What could a king who commanded territories vast as oceans possibly want with a barren wolf who couldn't even provide him heirs? What value could he see in what everyone else had discarded? As she was led away from everything familiar toward his mountain fortress, Serenia couldn't know that her emptiness concealed secrets, that her scars hid strength, or that what she believed broken might be the very thing that would save a cursed king's soul. Before we begin, remember to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Every day, a new story awaits you. Now, let us begin. When you discover fairy tales are lies, the pain cuts deeper for having believed them in the first place. Serenia knew this truth better than most as she stood before the village elders, their judgmental gazes weighing heavier than the silence filling the council chamber. Morning light filtered through high windows, illuminating dust motes that seemed to hang suspended in time, much like her fate. "The matter is settled," Elder Barren announced, her voice carrying the finality of a tomb door closing. "You've had 5 years to fulfill your duties as Mikhail's mate. 5 years to prove your worth." Serenia kept her spine straight, despite the urge to crumble. "I've served my mate faithfully," she replied, hating how her voice trembled. "I've tended our home, assisted in healing the pack's wounded, and failed to bear him children," Elder Oren cut in, his weathered face twisted with distaste. "The one duty that matters above all others." The words struck like physical blows, though she'd heard them countless times before, in whispers behind her back, in the pitying glances from fertile women, in the growing coldness of her mate's touch. "What good is a wolf who cannot continue the bloodline?" another elder asked, not expecting an answer. Mikhail stood 3 paces away, yet the distance between them stretched like an ocean. Once, he had courted her with gentle words and tender promises. Now, he wouldn't even meet her eyes. "It is decided," Elder Barren continued. "The mating bond will be severed. Mikhail is released from his obligation and free to take a fertile mate. No one asked what would become of Serenia. No one ever did. As she left the council chamber, the morning sun felt like mockery on her skin. The village sprawled before her, stone cottages with smoke rising from chimneys, children playing between gardens bursting with early summer blooms, shifters in both human and wolf form going about their daily tasks. It was beautiful. It was home. And soon, it would no longer be hers. "Serenia," her father's voice stopped her. Gareth Silverclaw, once respected for his fighting prowess, now diminished by age and the shame of having a barren daughter. His gray hair caught the sunlight as he approached, face set in familiar lines of disappointment. "They've given you until the new moon to gather your belongings," he said without preamble. "You'll return to my house until other arrangements can be made." Other arrangements. The words hung between them, unspoken, but understood. No one would take a barren woman as mate. No alliance could be forged with damaged goods. Her father would try to find someone, anyone, willing to take her as servant, perhaps. Or worse. "Thank you, Father," she said, the words hollow. His eyes, the same amber as her own, softened briefly. "It isn't what I wanted for you, but it was what he expected." What everyone had expected, since her courses came irregular and painful, since the village healer had examined her and declared her womb hostile to life. Back in the cottage she'd shared with Mikhail, Serenia moved like a ghost, touching the items they'd collected over 5 years of marriage, the quilt they'd slept under, the herbs hanging from the rafters, the wooden spoons she'd carved during long winter evenings. None of it was truly hers to take. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. She opened it to find Lyra, her only friend, standing with a basket covered by a cloth. "I brought food," Lyra said, pushing past Serenia into the cottage. "And don't give me that look. You need to eat." "I'm not hungry. I don't care." Lyra set the basket down, removed the cloth to reveal fresh bread, cheese, and berries. "Eat anyway." Serenia almost smiled. Almost. Lyra, beautiful and fierce with her dark curls and green eyes, had been her friend since childhood. Even now, with 3 healthy children of her own, she refused to abandon Serenia to solitude. "I heard," Lyra said quietly, "about the council's decision. Were you surprised?" "No." Lyra's honesty was both painful and refreshing. "But I am angry. Mikhail is a coward who doesn't deserve you." Serenia shook her head. "He deserves children. A legacy." She swallowed hard. "Things I cannot give him." "So what? There are pups without parents. There are other ways to build family." Lyra's fingers curled into fists. "He made vows to you, for better or worse." "Those are human vows," Serenia reminded her. "Wolves mate for children, for continuing the bloodline. Without that," she trailed off, the familiar weight of her failure settling on her shoulders once more. Lyra stepped forward, taking Serenia's hands in her own. "Listen to me. You are more than your womb. You are smart and kind, and the best healer this village has seen in generations." "Not good enough to heal myself," Serenia whispered. Before Lyra could respond, commotion erupted outside. Shouts and the thunder of hooves broke the morning quiet. Both women moved to the window. Riders approached from the forest path, their cloaks black against the greenery, silver emblems catching sunlight. At their head rode a man whose very presence seemed to bend the air around him. Tall, broad-shouldered, with hair as dark as midnight, and eyes that even at a distance seemed to burn with inner fire. "The Alpha King," Lyra breathed, voice hushed with awe and fear. Serenia felt her heart stutter. Everyone knew of Alpha King Draven, ruler of the Northern Territories. His reputation preceded him like a storm front, ruthless, uncompromising, a conqueror who had united packs through both diplomacy and blood. "What is he doing here?" she wondered aloud. Lyra's face had gone pale. "They say he collects tributes from each village under his protection. Labor, goods." Her voice dropped further. "People." A chill ran down Serenia's spine as she watched the procession enter the village square. The Alpha King dismounted with fluid grace, his movements those of a predator confident in his absolute dominance. Even from a distance, the power radiating from him was palpable. Village elders scurried forward, bowing deeply. Words were exchanged, too distant to hear, but the tension was visible in every line of the elders' bodies. "I should go," Lyra said suddenly. "The children, go." Serenia nodded, understanding her friend's fear. No one wanted to draw the attention of a man like Draven. As Lyra slipped away, Serenia remained at the window, an inexplicable force keeping her rooted in place. The Alpha King turned, as if sensing her gaze, his eyes scanning the village until they seemed to lock directly with hers. Something passed between them, a current of recognition that made no sense. She had never met this man, never stood in his presence. Yet, in that brief moment, something awoke inside her, something that had been dormant for so long she'd forgotten its existence. And then the moment broke, as Elder Barren stepped forward, gesturing widely as she spoke to the king. Serenia stepped back from the window, heart racing. Whatever business the Alpha King had in their village, it couldn't possibly concern her. A barren woman was of no value to anyone, least of all to a king. 3 days passed, and the village transformed under the Alpha King's presence. Guards in black and silver patrolled the streets. Elders met in continuous council. Households prepared offerings, their finest crafts, their best food. Their strongest sons and most beautiful daughters presented for the king's approval. Serenia kept to herself, packing her meager belongings for the move back to her father's house. No one called upon her healing skills with royal physicians in attendance. No one noticed her at all, until the summons came. All unmated women are to present themselves in the village square at midday, the royal guard announced, not bothering to enter her cottage. By order of Alpha King Draven. Serenya's stomach dropped. I'm not, she began, but the guard had already moved on to the next house. She wasn't unmated, not technically, not until the new moon when the severing ritual would be performed. But explaining this seemed pointless. She would go, stand at the back, and hope to remain invisible as she had so many times before. At midday, the square filled with women, young, fertile women dressed in their finest clothes, hair braided with flowers, cheeks pinched for color. Mothers fussed over daughters, whispering last-minute advice. Rumors swirled through the crowd. He's selecting servants for his castle. No, he's choosing a mate. Don't be absurd. A king doesn't choose from common stock. Serenya stood apart from the others, wearing her plainest dress, her honey-brown hair pulled back in a simple knot. She made no effort to enhance her appearance. What would be the point? The Alpha King arrived with his entourage of guards and advisors. Up close, he was even more imposing than he had appeared from a distance. His features were sharply carved, all hard angles and uncompromising lines. His eyes, a gold so intense they seemed to glow from within, surveyed the assembled women with cool detachment. I require 7 women for my household, he announced without preamble, his voice deep and resonant. Those I select will be compensated fairly, and their families honored with my patronage. A ripple of excitement moved through the crowd. To serve in the royal household was a coveted position, one that brought status and security. The selection began. The Alpha King moved through the rows of women, occasionally stopping to ask a question or gesture to an advisor. Each chosen woman stepped forward, face flushed with pride or fear or both. Serenya kept her eyes downcast, focusing on the worn toes of her boots. The king would never reach the back where she stood. He would select from the prime offerings at the front. Young, strong, fertile women who would bring honor to their families. One by one, 6 women were chosen. The crowd thinned as those not selected were dismissed. Serenya remained, forgotten in the shadows at the edge of the square. Soon she would slip away, return to her packing, continue the quiet disintegration of her life. There is one more I require. The Alpha King's voice cut through her thoughts. He stood in the center of the square, those burning gold eyes scanning what remained of the crowd. Her. A hush fell over the square. Serenya, still lost in thought, didn't immediately realize what was happening. Then she felt it, the weight of every gaze in the village turning toward her. She looked up to find the Alpha King pointing directly at her, his expression unreadable. No, Your Majesty. Elder Barren rushed forward, voice tight with embarrassment. You don't want that one. She's barren, defective. Her own mate has rejected her. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the onlookers. Serenya stood frozen, humiliation burning through her like wildfire. The Alpha King's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the square seemed to drop several degrees. Did I ask for your assessment, Elder? His voice was soft, all the more terrifying for its quietness. Elder Barren paled. No, Your Majesty, but then be silent. The Alpha King turned back to Serenya, those golden eyes boring into her. Step forward. Her legs moved of their own accord, carrying her through the parting crowd until she stood before him. Up close, his presence was overwhelming, a force of nature barely contained in human form. Your name, he demanded. Serenya Silverclaw, Your Majesty. Her voice emerged steadier than she expected. You're a healer. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. Yes, Your Majesty. Something flickered in his eyes. Satisfaction, perhaps. Or recognition. You will attend to my personal household. Gasps and whispers erupted around them. Serenya felt dizzy, untethered from reality. Your Majesty, she began, not knowing what she intended to say. To protest? To question? To throw herself on his mercy? Before she could continue, her father pushed through the crowd, falling to one knee before the king. Forgive my daughter's hesitation, Your Majesty, Gareth said, not looking at Serenya. She is honored by your selection. We all are. The Alpha King's gaze flicked dismissively over Gareth before returning to Serenya. Is that true? Are you honored? There was something in his tone. A challenge, perhaps. Or a test. Serenya met his eyes, feeling as though she stood on the edge of a precipice. I am surprised, Your Majesty. A corner of his mouth lifted in what might have been amusement. Honesty. Refreshing. He turned to his advisor. Make the arrangements. We depart at dawn. As he walked away, Serenia remained rooted in place, aware of the stares boring into her from all sides. Confusion, envy, disdain. She felt them all. Why her? Why the broken one? The barren one? The one everyone else had deemed worthless? She didn't realize she'd spoken aloud until Mikhail appeared at her side, his face a mask of conflicted emotions. It seems you found a place after all, he said, his voice carrying an edge she'd never heard before. Not by choice, she replied. His eyes narrowed. Few of us get to choose our fate, Serenia, but it seems yours has taken an unexpected turn. He hesitated, then added, The king is not known for his mercy, or his patience. Was it a warning, or simply one last twist of the knife? Before she could respond, royal guards approached to escort her home, where she would pack not for her father's house, but for a journey into the unknown, into the heart of the Alpha King's domain, where a barren woman somehow held value to the most powerful man in the northern territories. As she walked away, she felt the weight of her village's stares, some pitying, some envious, all confused. None as confused as Serenia herself. What could an Alpha King possibly want with a woman who couldn't give him the one thing every Alpha needed most? Heirs. The journey to the Alpha King's territory stretched 3 days. Serenia riding in a covered wagon with 6 other selected women who kept their distance as if barrenness might be contagious. No one spoke much until the evening of the 3rd day, when Elise, barely 18, broke the silence. Do you think he'll make one of us his mate? She asked, voice low but hopeful. Don't be ridiculous, replied Thea. Kings don't mate with servants. But why else would he choose us personally? 7 women, all unmated? Not all of us are unmated, Thea said, glancing pointedly at Serenia. And not all of us are whole. My mating bond is being severed, Serenia said quietly. I am as unmated as any of you. But still barren, Thea replied cruelly. The king must have some other purpose for you, as he must for you, with your vinegar tongue and sour disposition. Before Thea could respond, the wagon halted. The covering pulled back, revealing the stern face of the royal guard captain. We've arrived. Serenia stepped out, legs stiff, and gasped. Before them rose a castle carved directly into a mountain, stretching impossibly high. Black stone gleamed in the fading daylight, windows glowing amber from within. It looked more fortress than home. Inside, servants hurried about, guards patrolled in formation, and young shifters trained with wooden swords. Not a single person smiled, only efficient execution of duties. This was the most joyless place Serenia had ever seen. Matron Helene, stern-faced and rigid, led them to their quarters. 2 to a room, except for you, she told Serenia. The king has requested you have private quarters. Why? Serenia asked before she could stop herself. It is not our place to question the king's wishes, only to obey them. Her room was small but comfortable, with a narrow bed, washing basin, wooden chest, and small window overlooking the courtyard. Later, a young girl delivered linens and a message. Serenia was to report to the king's chambers at dawn. Sleep eluded her that night, mind racing with possibilities. By dawn, she'd convinced herself of the worst. The royal chambers surprised her. Books lined one wall. Maps and documents covered a table near the window. It looked like a scholar's dwelling, not a warrior king's. Draven stood with his back to her, wearing simple dark trousers and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to reveal muscled forearms. His dark hair was damp, as if recently bathed. Your Majesty, the guard announced. The healer. Draven turned, golden eyes finding hers immediately. Leave us, he commanded. Alone with the king, Serenia forced herself to maintain eye contact. Serenia Silverclaw, he said, her name sounding different in his mouth. You're wondering why I've summoned you. She nodded. You're a healer. Trained by whom? My grandmother, Your Majesty, and then the village healer after her passing. Your specialties? Herbs and poultices? Bone setting? Midwifery? Her voice caught on the last word. And your success rate? I've lost only 3 patients in 7 years of practice, Your Majesty. His eyebrows lifted slightly. Impressive. They were simpler cases, she added quickly. Nothing requiring extraordinary skill. And modest as well. Rare qualities in my experience. He gestured to a chair. Sit. She perched on the edge, back straight, hands folded in her lap. "I require a personal healer," he said. "Someone with both skill and discretion. There must be more qualified healers in your kingdom, Your Majesty. There are more experienced healers, certainly, but qualification involves more than experience." "I don't understand." "No," he agreed. "You don't. Not yet." He retrieved a small silver brooch, a wolf with emerald eyes, the royal insignia. "This marks you as part of my personal household. You'll wear it at all times." As she reached for it, their fingers brushed. A jolt shot through her, making her gasp softly. "You'll attend to my needs and those of any guests I designate," he continued. "You'll have access to the royal herb gardens and freedom to request supplies. In return, you will maintain absolute confidentiality." "Your Majesty, may I ask a question?" "You may." "Why me, when there are so many others more qualified, more whole?" he supplied, voice hardening. She flushed but didn't deny it. "Because I require someone who has nothing to lose. Someone who won't be tempted to leverage their position for advantage or alliance." The words struck like blows. Nothing to lose. Because she was barren. Because she had been rejected, deemed worthless. "I see," she said, voice carefully neutral. "No," he replied. "You don't, but you will." A knock interrupted them. Rowan, a tall man with a scarred face, entered. "Your Majesty, your uncle has arrived." Something dark passed over Draven's face. "Inform him I'll receive him shortly." After Rowan left, Draven turned to Serenia. "You'll begin your duties immediately. Report to Matron Helene for your schedule, but understand that my summons supersedes all other obligations." "Yes, Your Majesty. One more thing. My uncle, Lord Craven, is not to know of your specific role. As far as he or anyone else is concerned, you are simply another servant. Is that clear?" "Yes, Your Majesty." The next week passed in a blur, her days filled with learning the castle's layout, familiarizing herself with the herb gardens, and treating minor ailments. Each night, she reported to the king for brief, formal meetings. On the 8th day, screams erupted from the training yard. A young boy lay with his leg bent unnaturally, bone protruding through skin. Serenia knelt beside him, preparing to set the bone, when Lord Craven approached. "What is this?" he demanded, voice sharp with disdain. "The boy's leg is broken, my lord. I'm going to set it. Leave him. Pain builds character in young warriors. If he's strong, he'll heal on his own." Serenia looked from the boy's agonized face to Craven's impassive one. "My lord, without proper treatment, he may never walk correctly again. Then he was never meant to be a warrior. We don't coddle weakness in this pack." Something hardened inside her. "With respect, my lord, I was brought here to heal. That is what I intend to do." Craven's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You dare defy me, servant?" "I dare to do my duty, as the king instructed." Rage contorted his features. He grabbed her arm with bruising force. "You will learn your place, girl, or—" "Release her!" Draven stood at the edge of the training yard, his presence transforming the atmosphere instantly. "Nephew," Craven greeted, hiding his anger. "I was just explaining to this servant that we don't coddle our warriors in training. The boy will be more useful healed," Draven said simply. "He can return to training sooner." "Draven, you can't." "Enough." The word carried the full weight of the Alpha King's power. "Do not question me again." He turned to Serenia. "Proceed with your duties." Later that evening, Draven stood at his window when she reported to him. "You defied my uncle today. I did what I believed was right, Your Majesty. At considerable risk to yourself. The boy needed help." He crossed the room to stand before her. "My uncle is a dangerous man. He believes strength is forged through suffering. That pain is necessary for growth. And you, Your Majesty, what do you believe?" "I believe that unnecessary suffering serves no purpose. It dulls the mind and weakens the body. A blade is not strengthened by striking it after it's been forged, only damaged." The answer surprised her, suggesting a philosophy at odds with the ruthless conqueror of legend. "That said, my uncle has many supporters in this castle, people who share his views on strength and weakness. You would do well to be cautious." "Are you warning me, Your Majesty?" "I'm advising you. There are factions within these walls, currents you cannot see." "And which faction do you represent, Your Majesty?" Something like amusement flickered across his features. "My own." He moved back to the window. "You did well today. The boy will recover fully, thanks to your intervention." The unexpected praise warmed something inside her. "Thank you, Your Majesty." "Rest well, Serenia." I suspect you'll need your strength in the days to come." As she turned to leave, he added, "And Serenia, be careful whom you trust." The warning followed her back to her quarters, where she lay awake, replaying the day's events, factions within the castle, currents she couldn't see, a game with rules she didn't understand. And at the center, the Alpha King himself, a man both familiar and unknowable, whose golden eyes seemed to see through to the broken places she tried to hide. A man who had chosen her, the Barren outcast, for reasons she still couldn't fathom. As sleep claimed her, one question remained. What did the Alpha King truly want from her? 2 weeks into her service at the castle, Serenia found herself settling into an uneasy routine. By day, she tended to minor injuries and ailments among the staff and warriors in training. By night, she reported to the Alpha King, providing updates on her activities and receiving new instructions. Sometimes these meetings lasted only minutes. Other times, Draven would engage her in longer conversations about herbs and healing techniques, displaying a surprising knowledge of medicine. Throughout it all, Lord Craven's hostile gaze followed her. Since the incident with the boy, whose leg was healing perfectly thanks to her intervention, the king's uncle had made no secret of his disdain. He never addressed her directly, but she often caught him watching her with those pale, calculating eyes, as if waiting for her to make a mistake. "Don't let him intimidate you," advised Era, the castle's cook, and one of the few people who had shown Serenia kindness. "Lord Craven treats everyone that way, looking down his nose like we're all just insects beneath his boot." "He seems to have particular dislike for me," Serenia replied, helping Era chop herbs for the evening meal. The older woman snorted. "That's because the king favors you. He doesn't favor me. I'm just the only servant with private quarters? The only one who reports directly to him each night?" Era arched an eyebrow. "The castle notices these things, girl." Heat rose to Serenia's cheeks. "It's not what people think. He values my healing abilities, that's all." "Maybe," Era conceded, though her expression remained skeptical. "But Lord Craven sees any influence over the king as a threat to his own power. Be careful." It was the second warning Serenia had received, and it left her unsettled. That night, as she made her way to the king's chambers for their usual meeting, the weight of unseen eyes seemed to press against her back. She found Draven standing at his window, as was often his habit, staring out at the mountains. Something in his posture, a tension in his shoulders, a rigidity in his spine, made her hesitate at the threshold. "Your Majesty?" He turned, and Serenia gasped. His eyes, usually golden, now glowed an unnatural amber, the pupils elongated like a wolf's. Veins of darkness spread beneath his skin, visible even across the room. "You should not have come tonight," he said, his voice rougher than usual, almost a growl. Instinct told her to retreat, to close the door and flee. Instead, she stepped further into the room. "You're in pain." It wasn't a question. As a healer, she recognized suffering, even when disguised. "Leave," he commanded, turning away from her. Serenia approached slowly, hands visible at her sides in a gesture of peace. "Let me help you." A tremor ran through his powerful frame. "You cannot help with this." "How do you know if you won't tell me what this is?" He whirled to face her, moving with inhuman speed. In an instant, he stood before her, close enough that she could feel the unnatural heat radiating from his body. "Because this is beyond your skill to heal," he snarled, and for a moment, his features seemed to shift, becoming more beast than man. Fear surged through her, but she held her ground. "I cannot help if I don't understand what afflicts you." For a long moment he stared at her, those glowing eyes searching her face as if looking for something vital. Then, with visible effort, he stepped back. "It's the moon," he said finally. 3 nights from now, it will be full." Understanding dawned. All shifters felt the pull of the moon, but most had learned to control their transformations by adulthood. Only the very young or the very old struggled with the compulsion to shift during the full moon. "You can't control your shift?" His laugh was bitter. "Oh, I can control it, but at a cost." He moved to a cabinet near his bed, retrieved a vial of dark liquid, and drank it in one swallow, grimacing at the taste. "What was that?" she asked. "Wolfsbane, mixed with other herbs to make it less lethal." Serenia's blood ran cold. Wolfsbane was poisonous to shifters, capable of causing excruciating pain or death if consumed in sufficient quantities. It was sometimes used in minute doses to suppress the shift in extreme cases, but the side effects were severe. "That's dangerous," she said, unable to keep the concern from her voice. "Long-term use can damage your heart, your lungs. I am aware of the risks." His tone was clipped, final. "There must be other ways to manage." "There are none." The words fell like stones between them. Serenia studied him, noting the fine sheen of sweat on his brow, the slight tremor in his hands. "How long have you been taking it?" He hesitated, then answered, "Since I was 16. 9 years," she calculated aloud, horrified. "Your Majesty, no shifter can sustain that kind of poisoning indefinitely. It will eventually kill me." "Yes, I know." His expression was resigned, almost indifferent. "But the alternative is worse." "What alternative?" "Shifting during the full moon is natural for our kind." Something dark and haunted passed across his features. "Not for me. Not anymore." Before she could question him further, he moved past her toward the door. "We're done for tonight. Return to your quarters." "Your Majesty." "That's an order, Serenia." The command hung in the air between them, his authority pressing against her like a physical force. But beneath it, she sensed something else. Vulnerability, perhaps. Or fear. "As you wish, Your Majesty," she conceded, bowing slightly. At the door, she paused. "But if you change your mind, if you need me, I can help." His only response was a curt nod before he closed the door firmly between them. The next morning, Serenia woke with new purpose. If the king wouldn't explain his condition, she would find answers herself. The castle library seemed the logical place to start, though she had never ventured there before. She found it on the eastern wing of the castle, a vast circular room with shelves stretching from floor to ceiling. Scrolls and leather-bound volumes filled every available space, the air heavy with the scent of parchment and dust. An elderly man sat at a desk near the entrance, eyeing her suspiciously as she approached. "The library is restricted to noble visitors and royal advisors," he informed her before she could speak. "I'm the king's healer," she replied, showing him the silver brooch Draven had given her. "I require information on wolfsbane and its effects on shifters." The old man's eyebrows rose. "The king's healer? Since when does His Majesty employ a personal healer?" "Since recently." "Now, about those texts. I'm afraid I can't help you without explicit permission from the king or Lord Craven." Serenia bit back her frustration. "Very well. I'll return with permission." As she turned to leave, a familiar voice called out, "That won't be necessary, Tobias. She has my authorization." Rowan, the scarred guard captain she had seen in Draven's chambers, approached from between the stacks. He nodded to Serenia. "The king mentioned you might require access to certain texts." The librarian's demeanor changed instantly. "Of course, Captain. Whatever she needs." Rowan led Serenia deeper into the library, to a section where the books appeared older, their bindings cracked with age. "You'll find what you need here," he said, gesturing to the shelves. "Texts on herbal remedies, poisons, and their effects on our kind." "Thank you," she said, surprised by his assistance. Rowan studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. "The king values your discretion," he said finally. "As do I." She understood the implicit warning. "I seek only to serve His Majesty." "Good." He turned to leave, then paused. "One more thing. Stay away from the northern tower during the full moon, for your own safety." Before she could question him, he was gone, leaving her alone among the ancient texts. For hours, Serenia pored over volumes on wolfsbane and other herbs known to affect shifters. What she discovered only deepened her concern. Long-term use of wolfsbane, even in controlled doses, led to organ failure, weakened bones, and eventually, death. No shifter had been documented surviving more than 12 years of regular consumption. Draven had been taking it for 9. She found nothing explaining why he would need such extreme measures to control his shift. Most alphas had better control than ordinary shifters, not worse. Something wasn't adding up. As she was about to give up for the day, a slim volume caught her eye. Unlike the others, it was bound in black leather with no title on the spine. When she opened it, the pages were filled with cramped handwriting in a language she didn't recognize, except for one word that appeared repeatedly: cursed. Her fingers traced the strange symbols, a sense of unease growing within her. This was important somehow. She was certain of it. "Find what you were looking for?" Serenia jumped, nearly dropping the book. Lord Craven stood in the shadows between the stacks. watching her with those pale, unsettling eyes. "My lord," she said, quickly closing the volume and placing it back on the shelf. "I was researching healing herbs." In the restricted section, his tone was skeptical, bordering on accusatory. Curious choice for a village healer. She met his gaze steadily, refusing to be intimidated. "I go where my duties require." "And what duties might those be exactly?" He moved closer, his tall frame looming over her. "You spend an unusual amount of time with my nephew for a mere servant." "I serve at the king's pleasure, my lord. As do we all." Craven's lip curled in a humorless smile. "Indeed, but I wonder what pleasure he finds in your company." "Barren one." The slur was deliberate, designed to wound. Serenia felt it like a blade between her ribs, but kept her expression neutral. "If you have concerns about my service, perhaps you should address them to His Majesty." "Oh, I intend to." His gaze flicked to the shelf where she had replaced the black book. "I'm very interested in what my nephew is planning with his collection of broken things." Before she could respond, he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the quiet library. That night, Serenia found herself pacing her small room, unable to sleep. Craven's words had unsettled her more than she cared to admit. What had he meant by collection of broken things? Was that how Draven saw her? As another damaged curiosity to be acquired and studied? The thought stung, especially after she had begun to believe there might be more to his interest in her, that perhaps he valued her skills, her knowledge, her. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find a young servant boy, his expression urgent. "The king requires your presence," he whispered. Immediately. Heart racing, Serenia followed the boy through dark corridors and up winding staircases she had never traversed before. They climbed higher and higher, until she realized with growing apprehension where they were headed, the northern tower, the very place Rowan had warned her to avoid during the full moon. The boy stopped before a heavy iron door at the top of the tower. "He's inside," he said, then turned and fled back down the stairs without another word. Serenia stood frozen, remembering Rowan's warning. The moon wasn't full yet. That was still 2 nights away, but it was waxing gibbous, its pull already strong. She raised her hand to knock, then hesitated. Something felt wrong. Draven hadn't summoned her this late before, and never to this isolated tower. Was this truly the king's command, or a trap set by Craven or his supporters? Before she could decide, the door swung open of its own accord, revealing a spacious circular chamber. Moonlight streamed through high windows, illuminating stone walls lined with chains and restraints. In the center of the room stood Draven, his back to her, his silhouette outlined in silver. "Your Majesty," she called softly, stepping cautiously into the room. He turned, and Serenia gasped. The transformation had progressed further since she'd last seen him. His eyes now glowed a vivid amber, his features elongated, caught halfway between human and wolf. Veins of darkness pulsed beneath his skin, spreading like roots across his face and down his neck, disappearing beneath his shirt. "You shouldn't have come," he growled, the words barely intelligible through partially transformed vocal cords. "You summoned me," she replied, confusion mingling with growing fear. "No." He shook his head, wincing as if the movement caused pain. "I would never." He broke off, realization dawning in those inhuman eyes. Craven. The name was a curse, spat from lips that were reshaping themselves before her eyes. "You need to leave," Draven urged, his voice rough with effort. "Now, before." A spasm racked his body, driving him to his knees. He clutched at his chest, a sound of pure agony tearing from his throat. Instinct overrode fear. Serenia rushed to his side, her healer's hands automatically reaching to assess, to comfort. "Tell me what's happening. Let me help you." "You can't," he gasped, trying to push her away. "No one can. The curse." "What curse?" she pressed, holding onto his arm despite his attempt to dislodge her. Another spasm hit him, stronger than the first. His back arched unnaturally, bones cracking as they began to reshape themselves. When he looked at her again, there was desperation in his eyes. "The chains," he managed to say, gesturing to the restraints along the wall. Quickly, understanding struck her like a physical blow. The tower, the restraints. This was where he came during the full moon, not to control his shift, but to contain what he became afterward. "Please," he begged, and the raw vulnerability in that single word broke something inside her. With trembling hands, she helped him to the wall, securing the heavy iron manacles around his wrists and ankles. Each clink of metal closing was a death knell, marking the end of whatever illusions she had harbored about this man and his secrets. "Now go," he commanded, his voice already more beast than human. "Lock the door behind you. Don't return until dawn." "I won't leave you like this," she insisted, though every instinct screamed at her to flee. His transformed face contorted with something like tenderness. "Stubborn woman," he murmured. Then more urgently, "Listen carefully. What you're about to see, what I become, it isn't natural. It isn't me. Remember that." Before she could respond, his body convulsed violently, a roar of pain tearing from his throat. Bones cracked and reshaped, muscle tore and reformed, skin stretched and darkened. Serenia backed away, watching in horror as the Alpha King transformed not into a wolf, as was natural for their kind, but into something else entirely, something monstrous. Where there should have been the sleek form of a wolf, there now crouched a beast of nightmare, massive, misshapen, with 2 long limbs and a twisted spine. Its fur was patchy, revealing scales beneath in places. Its muzzle was elongated, filled with jagged teeth that no natural wolf would possess, and its eyes, they remained Draven's, golden and aware, filled with a pain that was all too human. The beast that had been Draven pulled against its chains, testing their strength. They held, but the creature's power was evident in the way the metal links strained against stone anchors. "Draven?" Serenia whispered, taking a cautious step forward. "Can you hear me?" The beast's head snapped toward her, nostrils flaring as it caught her scent. For a moment, recognition flickered in those golden eyes, and then it was gone, replaced by a feral hunger that made her blood run cold. With a roar that shook dust from the rafters, the beast lunged at her, stopped only by the chains that bit into its misshapen limbs. Saliva dripped from jagged teeth as it snarled and snapped. All humanity vanished from its gaze. Serenia stumbled backward, her back hitting the door. This was why Draven took Wolfsbane, why he locked himself away during the full moon. Not because he couldn't control his shift, but because what he became was a danger to everyone around him. He was cursed. The realization struck her with the force of revelation. The black book in the library, the whispered rumors of the Alpha King's ruthlessness, his isolation from his own people. It all made sense now. As she slipped through the door, locking it firmly behind her, Serenia's mind raced with questions. Who had cursed him? Why? And was there any way to break it? One thing was certain. Lord Craven had sent her here tonight hoping the beast would kill her. He wanted her gone, and was willing to sacrifice her to his nephew's cursed form to achieve it. But why? What threat could a Barren healer possibly pose to the king's uncle? Unless, the thought formed slowly, like ice crystals spreading across glass. Unless there was more to her role here than Draven had revealed. Unless her presence in the castle had some significance beyond her healing abilities. Significance that Craven had recognized even when she had not. As the beast's howls echoed through the tower, Serenia made her decision. She wouldn't flee. She wouldn't abandon Draven to face his curse alone. Instead, she would find answers. And perhaps, if the fates were kind, a cure. Dawn painted the castle walls with pale gold when Serenia returned to the northern tower. The beast's howls had ceased hours ago, but she had waited as instructed, giving Draven time to shift back to human form. Her night had been sleepless, filled with research and planning. The heavy iron door creaked as she pushed it open. Inside, the chamber lay in disarray. Claw marks scored the walls, chains hung broken from their anchors, and in the center of it all knelt Draven, naked and shivering, his skin marked with self-inflicted wounds that were already beginning to heal. "You came back," he said without looking up, his voice hoarse from screaming. "Did you think I wouldn't?" Serenia approached slowly, a blanket in her arms. Most would run and never return. She draped the blanket over his shoulders. "I'm not most people." His golden eyes finally met hers, haunted but clear. Human once more. "No, you're not." With gentle hands, she helped him to his feet, offering her shoulder for support. His strength was returning rapidly, a benefit of his alpha nature, but the transformation had clearly drained him. "Why did your uncle send me here?" she asked, as they descended the tower stairs. What does he gain from my death? Draven's expression darkened. He fears what you represent. And what is that exactly? They had reached his chambers. Draven moved to the washing basin, splashing cold water on his face before turning to face her. Hope. The word hung between them, laden with meaning she didn't fully comprehend. Before she could press further, a knock interrupted them. Draven gestured for Serenia to open the door. Rowan stood outside, his scarred face tight with concern. Your Majesty, Lord Craven demands an audience. He claims it's urgent. Of course he does, Draven muttered. Tell him I'll receive him in 1 hour. After Rowan departed, Draven turned to Serenia. You should go. It's not safe for you to be seen here now. I'm not leaving until you explain, she insisted. The curse, your uncle's actions, all of it. For a moment she thought he might refuse. Then, with a resigned sigh, he gestured to a chair. Sit. This isn't a short tale. She did as instructed, watching as he dressed with efficient movements. When he finally sat across from her, his expression was grave. 9 years ago, when I was 16, my father was still Alpha King. He was a good ruler, fair, wise, beloved by our people. But my uncle was always ambitious. Draven's jaw tightened. Craven convinced a neighboring pack that my father was planning to attack them. They launched a preemptive strike, and in the chaos, Craven killed my father himself. A betrayal disguised as an enemy attack. That's terrible, Serenia murmured, horrified. I discovered the truth when I overheard Craven speaking with his conspirators. When I confronted him, he denied everything, claiming I was crazed with grief. Draven's eyes darkened at the memory. No one believed me. A 16-year-old boy against the respected brother of the king. What did you do? The only thing I could. I sought power to expose him and claim justice for my father. Draven's voice lowered. There are stories of a witch in the northern mountains who grants wishes. For a price. Understanding dawned. You made a deal. He nodded grimly. I wished for the strength to defeat my uncle and claim my rightful place as Alpha King. And the price was the curse. The witch warned me that power without wisdom would destroy me. I didn't listen. His expression turned bitter. She gave me what I asked for. Strength beyond any alphas. The ability to defeat my uncle and anyone else who opposed me. But each time I shift, the beast grows stronger. Eventually, it will consume me entirely. And the wolfsbane delays this? It suppresses the shift, which slows the curse's progression. But it's killing me by inches. He met her gaze directly. I have perhaps 3 years left at most. The revelation struck Serenia like a physical blow. 3 years. Such a short time for someone so young. There must be a way to break it, she insisted. A sad smile touched his lips. The witch said only one thing could break my curse. A love stronger than my desire for power. A love given freely by someone who sees beyond the beast to the man within. And you believe this is impossible? Who could love a monster, Serenia? The vulnerability in his question made her heart ache. You're not a monster. You saw what I become. I saw a cursed man, not a monster by choice. She leaned forward, determined. What did you mean when you said I represent hope? Draven hesitated, as if weighing how much to reveal. When I first saw you in your village, I felt a connection, something I've never experienced before. Is that why you chose me? Some mystical connection? I chose you because you were kind when kindness brought you nothing, strong when life had given you every reason to break. His voice softened. And yes, because something in me recognized something in you. Heat rose to Serenia's cheeks. I still don't understand why this threatens your uncle. Craven didn't just want my father's throne. He wanted our bloodline erased. If I die without an heir, he becomes the legitimate Alpha King. Draven's expression hardened. But if I were to find love, break the curse, you could survive. Produce heirs. Continue your line. Exactly. The pieces aligned with sudden clarity. That's why he spread those rumors about me being barren. To ensure no one would see me as a threat to his plans. Draven's brow furrowed. Rumors. That I'm incapable of bearing children. That's why my mate rejected me. Something dangerous flashed in Draven's eyes. Is that what they told you? It's the truth. The village healer confirmed it years ago. And did this healer have any connection to my uncle? The question startled her. I don't see how he could have. Craven's influence stretches farther than you might imagine. Draven stood, pacing with restless energy. Tell me, what exactly did the healer say? Serenia frowned, trying to recall the exact words. That my womb was hostile to life, that I would never conceive. Based on what evidence? My irregular cycles, the pain I experienced. Nothing more? No examination by a specialist? No second opinion? In a small village? We were lucky to have one healer. Draven stopped pacing, his expression intense. Serenia, I believe you may have been lied to. The suggestion was so unexpected that she laughed reflexively. Why would anyone lie about such a thing? To isolate you, to ensure you would never form a mating bond strong enough to threaten Craven's plans. That makes no sense. I wasn't even part of your pack until recently. Weren't you? Draven asked softly. Your mother was from the Northern Territories, was she not? Serenia stared at him, stunned. How could you possibly know that? Because she was my father's cousin, which makes you part of the royal bloodline, she whispered, the revelation staggering her. Distant, but legitimate. If I die without an heir, and something were to happen to my younger brother, you would have a claim to the throne. The room seemed to spin around her. That's absurd. I'm no one. You're more than you've been led to believe. Draven knelt before her, taking her hands in his. I didn't know for certain until I saw you in the village. You have my father's eyes. As he spoke these words, the door burst open. Lord Craven stood there, flanked by guards with weapons drawn. How touching, he sneered. The beast and the barren one. What a pitiful pair you make. Draven rose, positioning himself between Serenia and his uncle. You forget yourself, Craven. I am still your king. Not for long. Craven's pale eyes gleamed with malice. The council has agreed. Your condition makes you unfit to rule. For the safety of the pack, you are to be confined until arrangements can be made for your brother to take the throne. My brother is 15, Draven replied coldly. Too young to rule without a regent. Let me guess who you'd suggest for that position. Craven smiled thinly. I serve only the pack's interests. As you did when you murdered my father. The accusation hung in the air, heavy and damning. Craven's face twisted with rage. Lies! The ravings of a cursed mind. Not lies, came a voice from the doorway. Rowan stood there, holding a small wooden box. Truth, preserved by those loyal to the true Alpha King. He opened the box, revealing a crystal that glowed with an inner light. A memory stone, he explained, containing the last moments of King Alaric's life, witnessed by the royal guard, and preserved for justice. Craven's face drained of color. Impossible. All the stones were destroyed. Not all, Rowan said grimly. I kept one, waiting for the right moment. The crystal began to project images into the air, ghostly scenes of the former king's death, unmistakably at Craven's hand. The treachery was clear, undeniable. Craven lunged forward with a roar of fury, but Draven was faster. In one fluid motion, he seized his uncle, forcing him to his knees. For the murder of King Alaric, for conspiracy against the crown, and for crimes against the pack, Draven pronounced, his voice carrying the weight of royal judgment, I sentence you to death. Wait. Serenia stepped forward, placing a hand on Draven's arm. There's something you should know first. All eyes turned to her as she approached Craven, who glared up at her with hatred. The healer in my village, she said quietly. He worked for you, didn't he? He lied about my condition on your orders. Craven's lip curled. What does it matter now? It matters because you've spent years destroying lives to protect your position. She turned to Draven. Death is too quick, too merciful for what he's done. Draven studied her face, reading the determination there. What do you suggest? Exile. Stripped of rank, of pack bonds, of everything he values. Let him live knowing he failed, that the bloodline he tried to extinguish will continue. For a moment, Draven was silent, considering. Then he nodded. So be it. Lord Craven is hereby stripped of all titles and banished from these lands forever. Any who offer him aid will share his fate. As the guards led Craven away, his pale eyes fixed on Serenia with pure hatred. This isn't over, he hissed. The curse will still claim him. You'll see. When they were alone again, Draven turned to Serenia, his expression somber. You showed mercy where I could not. Not mercy, she corrected. Justice. Death would have been an escape. This way he lives with his failure. A small smile touched Draven's lips. You would have made a formidable queen. Would have? The curse remains, he reminded her. Without love to break it, I am still doomed. Serenia moved closer, her heart pounding. What if there was already love? What if it had been growing all this time, without either of us realizing? His golden eyes widened. Serenia, I saw the beast, she said softly. I saw what the curse does to you, and I'm still here. You can't mean. I do. She reached up, touching his face gently. I love the man who defied his uncle to protect a boy with a broken leg, the king who values healing over suffering, the wounded soul who believes himself unworthy of love. Draven's expression was a mixture of wonder and fear. The curse can be broken by love, she finished for him. Not just any love. A love that sees beyond the beast to the man within. A love given freely with open eyes. And if it fails, if the curse remains, then we face it together. She held his gaze steadily. But I believe it won't fail. I believe in us. Slowly, as if afraid she might vanish, Draven leaned down, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that began tentatively, then deepened with growing certainty. As they embraced, a warmth spread through them both, a golden light that seemed to emanate from their very souls. When they finally parted, Draven gasped, staring down at his hands. The darkness that had pulsed beneath his skin for 9 years was receding, fading like shadows at dawn. It's working, Serenia whispered, watching in awe as the visible signs of the curse disappeared. I feel it, he said, wonder in his voice. The beast, it's quieting. For the first time in years, I feel whole. That night, as the full moon rose over the mountains, Draven stood in the courtyard, his hand clasped tightly in Serenia's. The entire pack had gathered to witness what many believed impossible. As moonlight washed over him, Draven's body began to change, but this time, there was no pain, no darkness. His transformation was smooth, natural, as it should have been all along. Where once a twisted monster had emerged, now stood a magnificent wolf, silver gray and powerful, with intelligent golden eyes that remained fixed on Serenia. The curse was broken. Later, as they stood on the balcony of his chambers, human once more and watching the stars, Draven turned to Serenia. There's still one question unanswered. What's that? The healer who lied about your condition. If Craven was behind it, then I might not be Barren after all, she finished, the possibility both thrilling and terrifying. Draven took her hands in his. Whatever the truth, it changes nothing between us. I love you for who you are, not for what you can or cannot give me. Tears filled her eyes at his words. But what about heirs? The continuation of your line. We'll face that together, when the time comes. He smiled, touching her cheek gently. For now, I have something more important to ask you. Yes? Serenia Silverclaw, would you do me the honor of becoming my queen? Not because of royal blood or political advantage, but because I love you and cannot imagine ruling without you by my side. Her answer was in her kiss, in the arms that wrapped around him, in the tears of joy that fell freely now. The barren daughter, called broken by all, had found her place, not as a servant or a healer, but as a queen. And the Alpha King, once cursed and alone, had found the one thing more powerful than any magic, love that saw beyond the beast to the man within. Together they would build a new kingdom, one founded not on fear and suffering, but on compassion and healing. A kingdom where no one would be judged broken or worthless, where strength would be measured not by power, but by the capacity to love. And if, in the years that followed, the royal nursery was filled with the laughter of children, well, that was a different kind of magic altogether. The kind that comes when lies are exposed to truth, when curses yield to love, and when those called broken discover they were whole all along. If you enjoyed this story, a like or comment really helps. And if you wish to hear more tales like this one, make sure you subscribe so you never miss the next tale.